conduct processed. Another question: how long has it taken you, or how do you rate the service that you're receiving under the various government institutions in the country? And I was asked to ask this question as well: how long does it take you to sell your car, second-hand car? And I'm talking about transferring it on the NTSA platform. Do you know how to use ATMs, which is now mandatory for your small business to run your transactions under? If you've got no answer to these particular questions, then indeed you have to participate in our conversation this morning. We are talking about service delivery, the question of whether indeed the Kenya Kwanza administration is running on broken systems. Right here at Lookuptv this morning on a big conversation. My name is Simbalaja Charles King. This is the Morning Drift. We come back with your newspapers. Right, let's then take a look at our newspapers this morning. But we're going to start with the Daily Nation. That's what they say. How Ruto broke the housing pledge. In its manifesto, the ruling coalition did not directly signal a levy deducted from workers' salaries to finance housing projects, and also proposed a modest contribution capped at 3,000 shillings per household each month to fund healthcare. But the state has now imposed monthly punitive levies of 1.5 and 2.7% on gross earnings that have sparked public uproar. Yeah, that is how it looks this morning on the Daily Nation. And this particular one is what we talk about this morning also on an in-depth level. We're also talking about those particular systems that essentially don't seem to augur well with the public in terms of service delivery. Also on the front page of the Daily Nation now, talking about how Azimio is in fresh push against high taxes and a high cost of living in the country. Talking about here on page 8, how Raila Amolo Odinga essentially say that they're taking measures to explore court action to press the government to address grievances like raising taxes, weakening shilling, and confusion in the education sector. We talk about that this morning as well in terms of those service deliveries. A story here covered on page 8. Kwame warning as UDA senators JSC plot in motion. Now Chief Justice Martha Koome vows the independence of the court is not negotiable, even as the Senator lobbies a change to composition of the Judicial Service Commission to tame the judiciary. Story covered on page 5, and it's been a story that we've spoken about for quite some time right here on the Morning Drift, with push even from the lawmakers in the August House who are now wanting to cut back the salaries for the judiciary to teach them a lesson, word on word. And this essentially goes on. On page 3, you're going to read a story on how a man fled to US after a woman's murder arrested. Read that story on page 3. There's also a story on page 12 on the agriculture sector, on how Nyeri and Kiambu farmers are reaping big from 2.9 billion shillings fund. Now the regions are the biggest beneficiaries of the first tranche of the 4 billion coffee cherry advance. That is essentially a revolving fund. That story has been covered on page 12. On the back pages, you're going to see about how there's more opposition to judiciary services at Huduma centers. Now the plan by the judiciary to set up court registries at the selected Huduma centers has continued to receive opposition from lawyers across the country as well. You're going to read that story on the back pages of the Daily Nation. And here on the Africa Cup of Nations update, we're going to see how beaten Cameroon, rule-changing room rift. Angolan Federation bans direct contact with players to avoid distraction ahead of the semis. There, man. Yeah. That's how fast the competition is moving, and you've not watched it, then you're missing a galore of goals in that particular competition. But the best so far, some of them might be contenders for goals of the year. Good. Let's move on.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Mambo ni mawili, kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
Muka we mse.
Nini mbaya?
Wewe kwani woni vile dereva anaendesha gari vibaya, lazima tususe.
Anaendesha gari na kwa simu the whole time, hata angalia barabara.
Watu zaidi ya 3,000 walipoteza maisha yao barabarani kwa sababu ya tabia kama hizo. Hautatuangamiza tukiona.
Naomba msamaha, nitampeleka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa tuende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
What about mambo fantastic if not scholastic? Chota kuchota na Hetia Supermarket imerudi. Ukifanya tu shopping ya shilingi 1,000, wewe unaingia kwa promotion ya chota kuchota na Hetia Supermarket. Watu wanaendelea kushinda ndani ya Hetia Supermarket.
Ni yangu.
Mwana tata, kitoko. Wewe na
umeshinda nini? Yote. Kwanza, uaga nalala.
Karibu ndani ya Hetia Supermarket uweze kuchota kwa wingi kabisa.
Watu wanasema nini?
Nakwambia kwamba chota kuchota. Unangoja nini?
Magari 7 za kushindaniwa, TV, fridge, microwave, shopping vouchers, school fees vouchers, instant prizes na zawadi zingine kemkem. Chota kuchota imethaminiwa na Hetia's Oven Fresh Bakery, Gigabyte, Mount Kenya Milk, Clover's Food Products, Velvet, Magic Drink, Pwani Oil, Arenco, Fruit Juice, Master Chef, Toilex, Coolsim, Mika, Wash Ultra, Philos, Bristol, Nivea, My Choice, Ushindi, Fresh Fry, Arimis Jelly, Cabernet Water, Dettol, Ketepa, Meta, Glucose, Coca-Cola, Rosy Tissue, Big Giant, Elbins, Unilever, Fresh, Unga wa Dola, Blue Band na Pasta Star. Shindano la Chota Kuchota linaanza tarehe 1 Disemba hadi tarehe 10 Februari mwaka 2024.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na Manjoro. Kumbuka hapa ndipo unajifunza mambo mengi kuhusu ukulima. Kilimo ni uti wa mgongo wa nchi, na ukiwa na Njoro unajifunza. Kumbuka, angalia mwenyewe. Tunakuambia ukitaka kujua tips za ukulima, ungana na sisi kwenye Lookuptv. Every Sunday unatukuta pale saa 10, tunakuonesha kuhusu ukulima. Ukulima wa mimea, ukulima wa ng'ombe, ukulima wa kuku, ukulima wa mbuzi na yote ambayo yanahusiana na ukulima. Kumbuka nini? Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lilima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lilima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Welcome back to the morning drift. My name is Elijah Charles Kiage. Let's then jump into our news this morning. Now, Kenya is perceived to be among the most corrupt countries in the world, according to a report released by Transparency International on Corruption Index Perception. Kenya was ranked number 126 out of 180 countries, with the report also faulting the Tito of former finance CS Henry Rotich in the Aurora and Kimarel Dam scandal. Ian Kisani opens our bulletin this morning.
The report released by Transparency International has seen Kenya ranked among the most corrupt countries for the second year running. According to the report, Kenya has been ranked number 126 out of 180 countries, with 100 points being the cleanest country and 0 being the most corrupt. Kenya scored 31 points, it being a clear indication of how corruption is deep-rooted in the country. Compared to its report in 2022, Kenya has dropped 3 places from its initial ranking, from position 123 to 126. The country scored 31 points out of a possible 100, a decline from a score of 32 points in 2022. Denmark topped the list with 90 points, with Somalia being ranked at the bottom of the list with only 11 points. The report said the high number of cases either dragged excessively, withdrawn by the prosecution, or resulted in acquittals, with no publicly known efforts to review the withdrawn cases or appeal the cases lost, have also cost the country in global ranking. A case in point, according to the report, is the acquittal of former CS Henry Rotich, who was accused of embezzling 63 billion shillings in the construction of the Aurora and Kimorel Dam, which they say is among the several mismanaged cases that are seemingly part of a broader pattern of controversies that have plagued the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in the recent past. Such controversial collapse of cases has eroded public confidence in ODPP's ability to uphold the rule of law and tame corruption, according to the report. The report also noted the importance of enhancing the independence of the judiciary. Transparency International's Executive Director, Sheila Masinde, noted that preserving the independence of the judiciary is paramount, and any investigation into allegations of corruption should be conducted transparently. This follows the recent spate of sustained attacks on the judiciary by President William Ruto, which was followed by a meeting between the head of state and Chief Justice Martha Koome. In the report, neighboring nations Tanzania and Rwanda have been rated highly with minimal cases of corruption, with Uganda and Burundi ranked number 141 and 162 respectively, with the 2 countries facing deep-rooted corruption, according to the report. Over 2/3 of countries scored below 50 out of 100 points, which strongly indicates that they have serious corruption problems. The global average is stuck at only 43, while the vast majority of countries have made no progress or declined in the last decade. What is more, 23 countries fell to their lowest scores to date this year. Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
St. Peter's Orthopedic and Surgical Specialty Center Hospital that has come under scrutiny in recent times over questionable NHIF medical claims has now distanced itself from allegations of corruption leveled against it. Speaking after the National Assembly Committee conducted a fact-finding visit to the facility, the hospital CEO and owner Dr. Wasena Gerald argues that the audit report implicating his facility has since been proven to have relied on unverified findings, hence vacated. As a reporter Henry Tender now expounds, the facility's management further says the DCI and the EACC have both cleared the facility of any wrongdoing.
On Tuesday, St. Peter's Orthopedic and Surgical Specialty Center Hospital was turned into a field of investigations. The National Assembly Committee on Health was here to continue its probe into hospitals that have been suspected to have acquired millions of money from the National Health Insurance Fund (NHIF) through fraudulent medical claims. St. Peter's Hospital coming under the sharp eye of the committee for allegations of receiving more than 350 million in unclear circumstances. Committee also questioning claims totaling to 12 million shillings whose pre-authorization was not given the NHIF green light. After a tour of the hospital's facility, the committee members engaged the hospital management in a grilling session. Dr. Wasena Gerald, who is the CEO and the owner of the facility, fielding a barrage of questions. Committee members raising queries why St. Peter's Hospital conducted surgeries more than the Kenyatta National Hospital that has comparatively huge capacity.
Your facility was given a specialized surgical surgery package during the preparation of the 2018-2021 cycle contract, but this was not part of the instruction from benefits and contracting as per your contract. What could be the difference? Were there discrepancies between dates of admission and dates of discharge in the hospital files and patients' files in 57 claims amounting to 11,729,500?
You can do many surgeries depending on your level of expertise.
And also the number of tables.
And the number of theater tables operating.
That you have.
So when I started doing knee replacement, I would take 3 hours. By the time when I left India, I came back, I will do a surgery for knee replacement for 30 minutes.
Also under the sharp focus was the millions paid to St. Peter's Hospital and the pending claims of 400 billion the hospital is seeking from NHIF. Another 12 million whose pre-authorization was not sanctioned by NHIF coming to haunt the hospital.
So the contract people came when they had a communication with the benefits. There was a clarification from the benefits within the same organization. And in their last communication, they actually said that they have, it's called what, to let...
Yeah. And that's what I wanted you to make very clear.
Yes.
That the people who had queried you were NHIF.
Yes.
The people who gave contracts are NHIF.
Then they queried...
The people who later understood that
the same
is NHIF.
Yes.
With the committee probing further, Dr. Gerald Wasena has distanced his facility with cases of corruption leveled against it. He says his troubles are stemming from an audit report that was conducted without his team being consulted, whose finding grievously implicated his hospital. An audit report that he says has since been vacated for making unverified findings.
I was cleared by the DCI.
You have a letter to that?
Yes.
ESCC, now that we have
the other issue,
the ESCC I've never approached me. They've never.
With the fraud claims having dented the image of once a vibrant and most respected hospital, Dr. Gerald has a special appeal to the government.
I know there has been fraud in NHIF. I know that for sure. Where I'm sitting, and I could be wrong, but where I'm sitting, I believe I am not in that category. Of course, we are the ones to, at the end of the day, conclude. If we are not in that category, I'm requesting you see how to help us go back to our normal operation. I had at the peak of the hospital, we had 400 workers. We are now 95.
Henry Tendanyula, Lookuptv.
Permanent Secretary for Interior Security, Raymond Omolo, now says under the new guidelines and policies regulating the private security sector, that the government will now be able to provide security services in all government institutions, as many get Tembe reports this morning.
It is at the National Assembly Committee on Administration and Internal Security, where the Permanent Secretary for Internal Security, Raymond Omolo, under the new guidelines and policies regulating the private sector, aiming to protect interests of security guards, adding that the government will now be able to provide security services in all government institutions.
In the energy sector, there are a number of critical infrastructure that we've been able to gazette as such and ensure that we give adequate security. So maybe a conversation with the judiciary will be important to achieve that. But also the fact that these private security officers are looking after critical infrastructure, even the ones that are in the hands of the private sector, it speaks to the urgency to properly regulate that space.
In order to sustain operations in the private sector, the authority will undertake special training in order to meet desired goals. This, the Director General of Private Sector Fazul Mohammed says the money collected will not only go to the economy but also the authority.
So in addition to sustaining the operations of the authority,
It will also enable the authority undertake training, and also maybe this will also address Honorable Kiangara's question. It will also address the issues about capacity building, training, and the general development of the industry. So not all the monies that will be collected will be used to just sustain the functions of the authority. So it will also go back to the economy. And
under the new guidelines from the Ministry of Labour, the guards working in Nairobi will be paid salary of not less than 30,000 shillings, while those serving in interior areas are expected to receive a payment of not less than 27,000. The committee now asking the wages term revised as well.
The authority is required by law to provide and set standards that ensure compliance with the minimum wage regulations.
So what do the minimum wage regulations say about the minimum wage for private security?
Basically, ours is to ensure compliance with the existing statutes that govern the minimum wage, which is set by the Ministry of Labour. Ours is to ensure compliance.
Cyber security still remains a threat and one of the major concerns in security sector, and in efforts to find lasting solutions, the Ministry of Internal Security has now put cyber security measures aiming to protect important data.
The National Cyber Protection Framework, as well as the National Cyber Security Certification Standards, provisions for innovation, research and development, as well as promotion of effective information sharing arrangements to protect against cyber.
Mavin Getembe, Lookuptv.
Interior Permanent Secretary Raymond Omolo now wants Airbnbs to enforce measures to identify their clients. Omolo has condemned the recent cases of femicide, saying the ministry is working with relevant authorities to bring perpetrators to book. Let's take a look.
The issue of femicide, I think there's been a huge outcry, and it's something that all of us have condemned, and we have taken steps to try to address. So there's been cases of people who have been apprehended for purposes of concluding investigations. But just so that for the record, this morning I've had a meeting with the PS in charge of higher education and the PS in charge of gender and affirmative action, as well as the PS representative on tourism, so that we will be issuing a communique later today on the measures we are taking to be able to deal with the situation. The truth is that there are already enough enabling laws and regulations, even in terms of the registration of those who run the Airbnbs. It's only that the implementation and enforcement has been a challenge, and we are calling on all the players to up their game, and where we need to come up with extra regulations, and that includes even the regulation we're discussing today. It will go a long way in addressing that. But then, of course, there is the bigger issue within the society that we also need to deal with. Because the traditional form of engagement, a lot of it has also moved online. It speaks to what we were talking about earlier on in the morning in the cyber security. So people are dating online, people are lured online, and before you know it, we are having a crisis in our hands.
So the question is clear. If you were looking for a passport today, the Interior Cabinet Secretary, that is Kithure Kindiki, said it is going to take you 2 weeks to get your passport. This morning I'll be reading to you submissions of Kenyans who waited for their passports for over 1 year. Some stretching up to 2022. So the thing is, even some of us are victims of what is seemingly systems that have sort of collapsed or not clicking under the Kenya Kwanza administration. A certificate of good conduct would naturally or previously take you 2 weeks to get. We've got Kenyans who applied for them a long time ago. It's taken over a month some even stretching 2 months to get that certificate of good conduct. Now, there's other things that have been introduced under this government, the e-Teams portal as well. If you're able to navigate it, then well and good. If you're not, you have to go to the Kenya Revenue Authority to get that particular training. But again, Kenyans are saying it's quite tough for you to navigate to even get your payments processed under that particular portal. But even as that goes on, we do know that NTSA portal, you know, the one that is in charge of you transferring your cars and then getting your driver's licenses and registering your vehicles, it is quite finicky at the moment as it was transferred to the e-Citizen platform. All of a sudden now, there's a feeling that systems within the government are not working. That's the question that we're asking this morning. What has the government really done to these systems that were previously fluid? Is it that they have failed to get them to work, or we're talking too much about this? That, plus many other issues that we're going to talk about this morning. I see Kalistas Wafula and one man that I'm going to say Happy New Year to, Eric Mungai, joining us this morning so we can weigh into these issues. Good morning.
Once again, tuko hapa Angel Center for Abandoned Kids, all because of you.
My name is Catherine Wanjiru. I am the admin, Angel Center for Abandoned Children. Our founder is Wamaitha Mwangi. We currently have 64 children, 32 going to school, and among those 32, 2 are special children, and we are left at the home with 32. Now the toddlers and the infants. To the Loto Foundation, thank you so much for remembering us. Guys, we lack words. We lack words. We don't know what to say. Thank you for remembering us. You made a promise and you have delivered. And may God bless you. To my fellow Kenyans, as usual, cheza Loto, sio ndoto. Angel Center tumeshinda Lotto.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the Lotto Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
What about mambo fantastic even not scholastic? Chota kuchota na Hetia Supermarket imerudi. Ukifanya tu shopping ya shilingi 1,000, wewe unaingia kwa promotion ya chota kuchota na Hetia Supermarket. Watu wanaendelea kushinda ndani ya Hetia Supermarket. Ndio. Mwana tata, kitoko. Wewe na umeshinda
nini? Yote. Kwanza, uoga na lala.
Karibu ndani ya Hetia Supermarket uweze kuchota kwa wingi kabisa.
Watu wanasema nini?
Nakwambia kwamba chota kuchota. Unangoja nini?
Magari 7 za kushindaniwa, TV, fridge, microwave, shopping vouchers, school fees vouchers, instant prizes na zawadi zingine kemkem. Chota kuchota imethaminiwa na Hetia's Oven Fresh Bakery, Gigabyte, Mount Kenya Milk, Clover's Food Products, Velvet, Magic Drink, Pwani Oil, Arenco, Fruit Juice, Masterchef, Toilex, Coolsip, Mika, Wash Ultra, Philos, Prestol, Nivea, My Choice, Ushindi, Fresh Fry, Arimis Jelly, Cabernet Water, Dettol, Ketepa, Meta, Glucose, Coca-Cola, Rosy Tish, Big Giant, Elbins, Unilever, Fresh, Unga wa Dola, Blue Band na Pasta Star. Shindano la chota kuchota linaanza tarehe 1 Disemba hadi tarehe 10 Februari mwaka 2024.
Hetia Supermarket, a world of choice.
Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na Manjoro. Kumbuka hapa ndipo unajifunza mambo mengi kuhusu ukulima. Kilimo ni
uti wa mgongo wa nchi, na ukiwa na Njoro unajifunza. Kumbuka, angalia mwenyewe. Tunakuambia ukitaka kujua tips za ukulima, ungana na sisi kwenye Lookuptv every Sunday. Unatukuta pale saa 10, tunakuonesha kuhusu ukulima wa mimea, ukulima wa ng'ombe, ukulima wa kuku, ukulima wa mbuzi na yote ambayo yanahusiana na ukulima. Kumbuka nini? Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
All right. Welcome back to the Morning Drips. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. I've got two gentlemen here who are going to help us put into perspective the big question that we're asking this morning. Systems within the Kenya Kwanza government, are they just not in order? And we're talking from service delivery, the education sector as well, all the way to where we are right now, even on their implementation of their development agenda. There's just a lot that we're going to look at this morning. Some of the issues that have really caused public uproar as it stands now. For us, we're going to just to elucidate some of them. But then the chief focus this morning being on that direct service delivery. Joining me this morning is a man that you're going to see for the very first time there, Sir Eric Mungai. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well, good morning.
Yeah, it's a happy thing to see you.
Yeah.
I saw Ragalo. Ragalo added weight a lot, and I saw you this morning as well. It's like you guys have been eating good, man.
No, you know the buffet that we had here while we were closing the year has sustained us.
Callista's missed it.
And then in these economic times, there are not many places you can go into the morning and get a buffet.
And then Ragalo said it's not just adding weight because of eating good, it's just because stress sometimes can lead you to add weight.
No, you know I choose to disagree with Ragalo many times. But a happy new year to the
you too, man.
And a happy new year to you.
That's it.
It's always a good. Last year we left it on a very good note.
That's it.
We had discussions that we believe shaped the nations, the nation rather, and the opinion. And we are glad to be of use to the nation, especially when we debate matters that concern them and affect them directly. It's one of the things the 2010 Constitution brought us is the freedom to express ourselves and the freedom to call out government when we need to call out government without fear that you will be drained into the Yala River, like used to happen in the former regime. Now we can sit here, we can critique, and most interesting this year, I hope also the judiciary will be gracious enough to also accept criticism. Because, we've come a long way. people, you can see allegedly people are booing the president. It's okay. You can see that people are booing legislatures. It's okay. Hey, but judiciary, you must speak in whispers. So I hope this is also a good year to remove the skeletons that might be hiding in the closet.
Happy to see you, man. We're gonna, part of that is we're gonna talk about this morning. Callistus, how are you doing? Happy to have you around. Yeah. All right, just before we introduce the what the dailies are talking about this morning, because majority of them are also talking about the questioning the systems that the Kenya Kwanza government is running under currently, asking whether indeed they are broken. I'm gonna bring to your attention what majority of Kenyans are really running into this morning. Now, there was seemingly a turnaround in that immigration department where Kithure Kindiki essentially went in and reined in on what he said was total corruption in that particular department. Every other Kenyan celebrated it, and they said they were going to clear the backlog of passport processing in that particular department towards the end of last year. So you would think that things would have changed then. Things essentially haven't changed. We've got numerous accounts of Kenyans who up to now are seeking their passports. Some, it goes way back to a year ago. But then, while this goes on, we haven't seen the government really speak on this particular issue, just as they moved in when it was clear that there was a lot of corruption in terms of how the systems in the immigration department were running. But even as we begin this morning, you wonder whether indeed things have really changed. Because today, as we begin this particular broadcast, Kenya has been ranked among one of the most corrupt nations in the world, scoring 126 points, showing you just how even the change of systems that we're talking about here this morning haven't really helped us, advance or fight in corruption. And it's a good thing that Mr. Mungai is here this morning. Let's table that conversation then so we get it clear. I mean, Mr. Mungai, let me start with you as well. When majority of Kenyans are asking, why are these things not working? And I want to start with one particular department, the immigration department. I mean, Kithure Kindiki was rated among the best performing cabinet secretaries last year. It was seen as a man who moves in when majority of Kenyans need him to move in. But stark difference, things have not changed in that particular department.
Thank you, Simba. Well, the truth is there's a big challenge with immigration. We've had, and when I say we, I always like to qualify, I am part of Kenya Kwanza. I haven't, when they say when the kitchen is too hot, you get out. I prefer removing my shirt and dealing with the heat. But the truth is there's a big challenge with immigration.
Yes.
And there are two challenges. One is that when a bulk of the passports were processed, Kenyans did not go to pick them. In fact, most of those passports are still lying. You remember they were published in the dailies.
Yes.
So most of those passports are still lying in immigration. Either the owners gave up on the process or something happened. But now the challenge is the people who urgently need the passports are not actually able to get them. In fact, it's been so bad. The cartels you say had been chased away, they are now back. People are bribing. It's always good to say that, to speak the truth. People now are bribing all the way up to 50,000 to be able to get a passport. And as it is now, you can only get a passport on an emergency basis. So either you're sick, or you want to go to, say, India or whichever country,
yes,
or you have emergency business travel. And even for those emergency travels, you still have to part with a tidy sum to be able to get the passport. So it's a big issue. I overheard, I can't say a certain for sure that there is a shortage of printing books. I don't know how that could be, but rumor has it, and sometimes rumor tends to be true,
yes,
especially in those circles. The cartels are back at the precincts of Nyayo House. And this is sometimes my challenge with public pronouncements. And when you rush in to cosmetically approach an issue that is systemic in nature.
Yes.
The truth and reality is the immigration department has been a thorn in the flesh for Kenyans for many years. This is not the first time. It's just that this time it has been exacerbated, and especially because we have seen the CS. You remember during Kajwang's time when we gave a lot of passports and citizenship to a lot of aliens that finally ended up causing us a lot of harm. But the fact that the CS intervened on this particular issue magnified it. Now, it's so big to an extent now that it's becoming a thorn in the flesh for many Kenyans. And that is the truth. There is a challenge in immigration. Kenyans are not able to access passports. There is also a challenge in good conduct certificates acquisition. I fail to understand sometimes why government systems, especially technological systems, tend to fail even when they are supported by the private sector. And I'll give you an example. Once every year, we have KCP and KCSE results. Yeah. Once every year, not even twice, just once. That once, when you expect the systems to be working, either the results are mixed up, or you have to send 3 texts of which money is deducted. They give you wrong results, so they ask you to try again. Either they want to milk money from you, and then at around 3, the system hangs. Yet, this country is known for its innovation, especially when you look at Safaricom. They do billions of transactions in a day on M-Pesa on a daily basis for 365 days. But when it comes to government systems, just one day and it's not working. So when it is election time, electronic systems do not work. So we have to resort to a manual system. When it is KCSE and KCPE, at least they work for half a day when they have gotten money from you. Then they cease to work. When it comes to good conduct, when you pay, I mean, what is so special? You know, sometimes it's madness and a lot of, it's not watershed hours, let me forego that one. But I don't see how taking of fingerprints, you know, like they take you, you know how they do those things of your fingers and upload in the system. I mean, why would that take you 6 months? Why would you need to part with a bribe for that kind of a system to be up and running?
Yes.
And therefore, I must say that we need to call the Director of Immigration to order. We need to call the DCI chief to order. We cannot continue running a country like a banana republic, and the services are not for free.
Does it? What about the Cabinet Secretary? Callistus, I want you to weigh in on this as well. Because we're talking about the systems of majority of Kenyans and needing them on an emergency basis. I mean, it's a government that is talking about Kenyans getting opportunities. I mean, if that is going to be what they're singing about, then they have to make that process very fluid. Yes. To the point that you like to imagine that at most 2 weeks, if I apply for a passport, then I should be able to get it to get out. And I'll be reading for you some of the submissions that we got when I asked yesterday about how frustrating the process has been. Let me just take you back to 2023, and that's where we get where this problem starts from. The Directorate has been procuring e-passports booklets on time. However, the supply and delivery has been a challenge due to delayed payments caused by untimely release of the exchequer and inadequate budgetary provision. Delayed exchequer funds has resulted in huge pending bills. That's a quote by one Mr. Bitok, who's a PS in that particular department. So you can see that it's a deliberate system failure that has been occasioned by this particular government.
Yeah.
That you're stressing so much on making a certain department work really good, but when you look at the basics of making it work, it's just not in tally.
Yeah.
So who should we call out in this particular scenario?
I think the services that are stalled is because of corruption. There's some people who are manipulating the system because people are paying on daily basis.
Yes.
And the Kenyan government collects close to 3 billion shillings per day just on the issue of passports and registration, the immigration office.
It's actually what it is, isn't it? You pay for that service before you get it.
So they are collecting money.
Yes.
But they are not doing anything. They are not printing the passports.
Yes, and I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to jump in, Callistus. There's a point that I gotta ask you. Then, is this where changing this particular payment system to the general 2222 is now going to get questioned, because that money has to get to one portal before it is distributed to this particular department? Was it a confusion?
Let me tell you, the president assured Kenyans that he will digitalize government services. And that was one of his main manifesto. He promised Kenyans that government services will be digitalized under his administration. But it is so unfortunate that he is overseeing corruption, because what is happening is corruption and the people are making money, and if he's not receiving in any way, he's not receiving, benefiting from the corruption proceeds that are happening at the immigration office, then we must hold him accountable. The president must be held accountable. This is something that we cannot say, either Kindiki or just a director of immigration.
Why can't we say? Because the president essentially said, I'm moving away from direct payments to this particular department.
He said he wants Kenyans to go and work outside there. He has even gone to Chairman and Israel. He promised them that we'll be exporting employees to your countries. And yet, in his country, he's not doing anything to improve the services. What has he done so far to facilitate Kenyans that he wanted them to go out to work in Chairman and in other countries? So we are saying this is a manipulation. Is a process that has been created by the system to manipulate or to deny Kenyans chances, because like just as my friend has said, you can only go out on emergency issues. If you are going to either a scholarship or maybe you are going for medical issues, that is the only reason why you use money to even get that passport. So I can give you an example.
Yes.
I ran for Member of Parliament in Embakasi South. And that time I was looking for requirements, like I wanted a letter of good conduct from a DCI. And all those requirements, I got them in a half a day. But there are some people who are waiting, like for 1 month or 2 months. So what I'm trying to tell you is that Kenyan government, the government system is corrupt, but under William Ruto, it seems all the system.
Yes.
He's running a dysfunctional government.
But Calista, specifically on the immigration department, if you're going to say, well, I'm pointing out to this particular area as one of the most corrupt areas in the immigration department, they stopped it. I mean, the CS Kithure Kindiki was there. Looked at how the systems were functioning, and you like to think him getting taken through the entire process would have gone back and learned how to cut down on that corruption. So that's what I'm saying. Why can't we call out CS Kithure Kindiki for making this not work?
But you know, CS Kindiki went there to just calm Kenyans because at that time, Kenyans were making a lot of noise, and some other people had gone to court to seek they wanted the court to compel the government to give Kenyans passports because people are paying for it. So the CS Kindiki went there, and I think he went there under the instruction of the president, just to calm the country. That is what they are doing. Just recently, I saw the president in Meru. He was trying to preach the same gospel he used to preach before election, trying to promise Kenyans. You You can't preach policies. Policies are supposed to be orchestrated and implemented by you. So you cannot be preaching about what you want to do. So we are saying the stalled services, we also need to blame our parliament, because Kenyan parliament is the most stupid parliament on earth, because there are so many people in that parliament who even don't know their work. They don't represent us, they don't legislate on our behalf, they don't even stop anything that the executive is doing. So we are saying, when we talk about corruption, all people, including the judiciary, should be put to question. But the most corrupt institution in Kenya is parliament. And it is parliament which is helping executive to do corruption. Because we cannot say we have a parliament where the system, like the services has been installed, but you don't see anybody taking it as an agenda. So what is the reason of us having the national parliament? We don't have a reason to have a parliament. And when we say Kindiki went there and he said things will be working and it's not working, who is supposed to question him?
Is it not?
We are not supposed to question him.
Are we not supposed to question Kindiki himself? I mean, it's directly in charge of it.
But not on the show. Kindiki need to be questioned by the parliament. But I'm telling you, Kenyan parliament is the most corrupt parliament on earth. And the parliament that is overrepresented. We have got many representatives from that parliament, but they are not helping us. They are just making noise there. And the president is happy because he has a dysfunctional parliament. He has a dysfunctional executive, which is helping him to make money. So we are saying, and we have heard the president saying that he wants to introduce toll stations along the super highways.
Callistus, just before we get there, but that's also going to come as well in terms of the systems that majority of Kenyans, but there are 2 or 3 that have caused national uproar on it. But Mungai, let me just take you back again. It's quite simple. The president came in and said, "This is what we're going to do. All government payment portals are going to come from one." In fact, they even ratified that single account for government payment services, which was a big win for the country, you like to think, because now all withdrawals and payments are going to be made into one account, which makes it very, very easy for tracking of government expenditure. Good. Number 2, even when it comes to mobile payments, the president came in and said, well, guys, no government service is going to be paid by a lot of big pill numbers. No, he said, no, it's just going to be 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. But I didn't stop that guy. E-Citizen, he said, I want the entire online government services to be on E-Citizen portal. Moved NTSA to E-Citizen portal. In fact, even E-Teams now, there's that conversation that they could be moved all the way to the E-Citizen portal. So when you go in, you are essentially meeting everything from one pool. Let me talk about that specifically. I mean, Mr. Mungai, if indeed we are paying to one portal, was that where the confusion started from? Because you imagine when you apply for a passport, you pay before you get the passport. So for any other person thinking, they're like, but I've paid for it, so you have money to get my booklet and to process my documents. But here's a scenario where we as the government, out of our rightful thinking, Mr. Mungai, we've said, nope, all that money, one area. So the exchequer then, since that money has come in, will then deliver this money to these various government departments. Is that what we got it wrong? Because as of late as of July 2023, that particular immigration department was saying, us, we are ready, but we don't receive that money timely.
I think we are mixing 2 issues here.
Yes.
One is the issue of service delivery. And the other one is the issue of consolidating funds into a single account. Now, service delivery is a consequence of ineptitude. It has nothing to do with consolidation of funds. I mean, we have had county governments return money to treasury, because they were unable to absorb it. So the issue of the ability to absorb funds is a consequence of either poor planning or is a consequence of ineptitude for those that hold public office.
Does it?
But to go to your issue of consolidating funds in one account, you see, governments don't spend on source. You need to understand that there is a budgetary process at the beginning of every cycle. You know, nowadays, because of the new constitution, you remember previously the finance minister would take a photo on that June 30th outside Treasury. Still does, but now it's more ceremonial.
Does it?
And the budget would be tabled in the floor of the House. But nowadays, as it is, that process starts much earlier, okay? And going to Parliament on that day is just a formality, it's just highlights of what is in the budget. And so governments spend based on what they have budgeted for and not what they collect on source. Now, why is it important for us to have this discussion on consolidation of all money into the 222 account, as the president intimated? When your tax is collected, it goes into the consolidated fund. Now, into the consolidated fund, the government now dips their hand there, either to pay salaries or to pay foreign debt or to pay other things. Now, what usually would happen is this, and the reality is that since the 222 was effected, government has actually collected more.
Does it?
Because what would happen is that individual government agencies would collect, but allegedly not all of it went to those accounts. I said allegedly, okay? But what is happening now is that when everything is collected, it goes into a single account. And therefore, government is able to track on exactly what each agency has been able to collect. Because you know, if it's immigration, once you go to immigration and you get the particulars that you used to pay for M-Pesa, that will be reflected in that consolidated fund as coming from immigration. And surprisingly, for the same transactions that used to happen prior, now there is more money coming in, same institution, same agency,
yes,
but now there is more than what was previously the agencies used to collect. So the question is, where did money, initially when money was collected, where did that money actually get to go? And therefore, to me, it was a good idea. It's actually, you know, the first brilliant idea was the invention of sliced bread. This is now the second brilliant idea.
Would you say
in terms of collection of funds?
In terms of collection of funds.
Yes, in terms of collection.
But that particular system of collecting funds, has it created a loophole in these state departments? Some of them are saying, we gotta wait. That fund, we don't control it directly as it used to be.
You see, this is what you need to understand, okay?
Yes.
And the viewer needs to understand. Even though you collect money, you only spend what you budgeted for.
Does it?
Because every year you must submit a budget. So even if you are to collect more, remember, government, for instance, to use immigration. Immigration does not collect your money to go and buy a booklet.
Does it?
It forecasts in the beginning of the year that this year we are going to need X number of books. And it budgets for X number of books.
Does it?
Okay? Now, there is provision, of course, for emergency should you need more according to the procurement process. So it means that government is not waiting for you, per se, to pay the 6,000 for passport so that they go and buy a book. They ought to have done that before. Now, because of our systemic, and I call it systemic because it's a systemic failure, it's not a money issue per se. You know that since the previous government, we have been struggling with pending bills as Kenyans. And the truth is, many Kenyans have suffered and have pending bills that have not been paid by government. Part of that pending bill is the booklets for immigration. So someone supplied the books, they were not paid previously, so they have been loaning government. You understand? Now it reaches a point, even you as a supplier, you're not willing to participate in a system that actually impoverishes you.
Yes.
And therefore you stop supplying. And that's why the PS is saying, actually the PS is on record saying, as a result of those pending bills, and the truth and reality, and this is the reality that we cannot run away from, if you have supplied government, and if you have been in government circles, you know government has been struggling in terms of finance. You know, it's a secret, but it's an open one. And therefore, it means that part of the resources that government has been collecting, you see, according to the Public Finance Management Act, there is how you're supposed to dip into the consolidated fund. And one of the expenditure and compulsory expenditure that you must incur from the consolidated fund is external debt. Once you finish paying external debt, you come to internal debt. Internal debt is the treasury bills and the treasury bonds. When you finish paying the banks now, and everyone else who has lent government internally, including pension funds and bilateral whatever, you come to salaries. Okay? You pay the civil servants. So it means that if our debt levels are high and our internal borrowing is high, even the civil servants might suffer in terms of salaries. And it has happened. You recall there is a time government was unable, or rather delayed paying salaries. You recall. Now tell me, if a civil servant is not able to get their salary on time, and we are taking from the same pool, okay?
Yes.
This is the same pool where you're supposed to disburse to county governments. It's the same pool where you're supposed to disburse to immigration to print booklets. It therefore tells you, if we are struggling at the top, then consequentially we will struggle at bottom. Actually, this is now not bottom up. This is top bottom struggle
approach, isn't it? You know, one of the reasons I like Mungai is that even when he tries to make a particular point, he would make you understand the entire process, but he won't come out and tell you, but this is where exactly the problem is. I mean, Mr. Mungai, the question, the question is this, Remember, we started this by saying there's a government that came in and said we're going to make the systems work. I mean, they came in with a process. I mean, part of their campaign promise is that they do not understand why we're not collecting more. Now they've got a way to collect more. But then in between implementing the systems that was going to allow them collect more, they've affected service delivery, or they failed to sort of factor in service delivery of these agencies. And Mr. Mungai will be coming back to you shortly after Kalista's response to this, that if indeed they know that there's a pain point, that the immigration department is a pain point for majority of Kenyans, that getting a certificate of good conduct essentially affects even the employability of majority of Kenyans in this country. I mean, if I did an interview and I was asked for a certificate of good conduct, previously I knew it would take me 1 week max to get it. Now, you might not know how long that is going to take. So people have missed jobs. I'm going to read for you those messages this morning. Or people have gone in, they missed job because they did not get the certificate of good conduct. Is it possible then for them to change these systems that they have introduced to say that indeed, up to a certain level, we got to give the state of immigration department some autonomy? Because Kenyans are paying for this service directly. It is, I pay you, you give me a service. The same way you go to a shop, pay money, get the sliced loaf of bread that Mr. Mungai was talking about this morning. That some state departments have to happen like that. That you got to give them that autonomy. That there's a feeling that what they've figured out is how to collect more out of the new systems that they've introduced in these departments, but on service delivery, they haven't figured out. Is that what it is?
First of all, let me just tell my friend who is here that he's trying to lie to Kenyans, our viewers who are watching us this morning, about the single pay bill. Because that is actually the cause of all these problems. Because when you're telling me that we are collecting more because of one pay bill, then it doesn't make sense. Because we used to pay through a pay bill. There's nowhere in government offices where we have been paying cash. Uhuru Kenyatta changed everything. We have been paying through PayPal.
Yes.
So you cannot tell me that money can be lost. But what has happened, someone has created that single PayPal and is now deciding when to give money or deciding where he can direct resources. So all the stalled services, if you go under 2 investigation, you will find that the issue is all about disbursement. They are collecting money, but the time of disbursement is not clear.
Yes.
And also the priorities. The priorities of Ruto's administration is upside down. And it makes me upset because most of Kenyans are suffering, and even those who supported UDA, they are suffering under the hands of William Ruto. William Ruto has promised that he is going to export employees, something that, and you cannot tell me that we are struggling because of debts. Can we say that now Tanzania is doing better than Kenya, or Somalia is doing better than us? We cannot argue a point of that the government has not been paying suppliers. That is not the issue. The issue is they are collecting money, and it's like you are taking money from Kenyans, but you are not giving services.
Yes.
So that is corruption in nature, and that is one of the things that are causing what we call have to reduce productivity.
Yes.
Production has gone down because when you deny Kenyans chance to go out there, maybe people are going to source for investment plans to come and do some things in the country. If you deny them passports, what will happen to the economy is that production will decline. And we are saying if William Ruto is interested to help Kenyans or to increase production and create employment, then he need to focus. He need to get his priorities right, because the services of the immigration services are essential to the country's economy, because people are moving out, people are going out to import things, people are going out to look for maybe to do investment, and then in returns they bring investment in the country. So we are saying if you are denying us chance to go and invest, so that we can come and invest in the country. At the same time, you are saying I'm digitalizing government service. I've created one baby, I'm collecting more. So when you are collecting more and we are not getting services, what does that mean? It means is either is corruption, is either you are overseeing corruption, or you are borrowing money from Kenyans because I've paid for passport. Then it takes me like a year to get that passport.
Does it?
It means we have been using my money to do some other things.
Yes. Mungai, is that what it is? That some departments, regardless of the system they're introducing, and that's what we're talking about this morning, Mr. Mungai, that regardless of what the systems are that you're introducing, that we do agree. And by the way, if you look at collections for the government as of December 2023, for the very first time, e-citizen collections essentially crossed the 900 million shillings mark in a day. That essentially was a feat that was celebrated by Kenyans, especially after the introduction of the pay bill number 222222, which begs two questions then. I mean, if all these pay bills were recognized by the government as the ones that were controlling these state agencies, how is it possible that you steal money from a pay bill without getting a record of it? That's the first question. Is there anything that we weren't aware of? Because this is digital money that is getting collected through the e-citizen platforms. And number two, Mr. Mungai, that yes, thank you very much for the systems of collection that you're introducing. They're seeing you collect 900 million shillings a day. That's good. We celebrate that. But some departments have to be given now autonomy, because currently as it is, Mr. Mungai, and that's the example that I gave you, before you apply for a passport, you pay for it. before you apply for a certificate of good conduct, you pay for it. In fact, currently as it is as well on e-citizen platform, before you even pay the amount that is used for processing that, there's another fee that you also pay for to access this particular service. Yes. So it's a transaction basis, Mr. Mungai, to the point that every other Kenyan is wondering, why am I getting told about the exchequer delaying their funds to release these booklets when in reality, I have paid for it?
One, I have been falsely and wrongly accused of being a liar. And you know, I always thought of myself to be the brother of Jesus.
As
I never thought...
as the Bible identified what the brother of Jesus was. Yeah?
And you know, in my other life, I'm a carpenter. But having said that, I accept certain facts. That one, there is poor service delivery. You know, it needs no explanation.
Mr. Mungai, is it service delivery?
No, wait.
Is it lack of a system?
No.
Mr. Mungai, I mean, just make it clear.
You see, I'll tell you the challenge we have as a country.
Yeah.
The challenge we have as a country is that no one takes responsibility. How so? Okay. So Kenyans don't have passports, which we have paid for.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Whom am I supposed to blame?
The Immigration Department.
Immigration Department.
Who heads it?
Headed
by
no, wait.
The ministry.
No, wait.
Yes.
In Immigration Department itself, there is a head. There is head of immigration.
Does it?
Okay? Now, when you go to the head of immigration, what does he say? He says, you know, we are doing our job, but the challenge is not really us. The challenge is...
Treasury.
No, he will say maybe interior. You go to PSB Talk, PSB Talk will say, you know, we are really trying our best, but the challenge is not us. The challenge is Treasury. Now, in that line, there is no accountability.
Hold on, you've left out one man as well. You've left out one man in that line.
Who is that man?
There's the man who heads the Interior Ministry.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm just giving as a way of example.
But then,
yes, he is also involved. It's okay.
Good,
I'm not absolving anyone.
No. Just to continue your train of thought, yeah? Yes. But what did he say himself? What did he say last year?
No,
that man was
he said he said he will sort. He said the buck stops with him. He'll sort it out.
He will sort it out.
But what I'm trying to say is, in terms of accountability, because you see, the CS Interior, immigration is just one of his dockets. He has other dockets that he needs to handle.
Does it?
So the single fulcrum of failure, the buck stops at the immigration itself. Because as an ordinary Kenyan, I'm not interested in the bureaucracy. I am interested in the fact that I have paid money for a passport.
Also, that's what we're talking about.
I have paid money for a passport. I need the passport.
Yes.
Which government department is responsible for giving me a passport?
That's it.
It is immigration. Therefore, regardless of whether the CS is involved in the line or the CS Treasury, is inconsequential to me as an ordinary Kenyan. Because as far as I am concerned, you see, if I go say to a policeman and he refuses to write in the occurrence book of a crime I have reported, the buck has to stop with the OCS of that particular station. I cannot start blaming the Interior Minister for the fault at the station level. Okay, I need to escalate that discussion as and when I have exhausted all possible channels. And I am saying on this particular issue, that is why when we started I said this. I said specifically the issue of good conduct, the issue of passport, the buck stops with, is he called Amin? The new DCI head. He's called Amin. And the head of immigration, I can't recall, I think it's a lady. I can't recall the name. The buck stops with them. And they must tell Kenyans, because for me it doesn't make sense, that the president on the dailies, he's in Italy. He's gone to negotiate jobs for Kenyans. Now, how are Kenyans supposed to fly from here to Italy or to Germany without a passport? And you see, Germany is not like Tanzania. I'll get a temporary. No.
I told you, but Mr. Mungai,
it's not that I'm not alive.
And we're not disputing that. There's a fact that you are just running away from this morning.
Which is?
There's just a clear fact.
Which is?
That the boss of all these people one time went and camped at the immigration department. He did last year. 3 days in a row.
And that is not in dispute.
3 days in a row. It's not in dispute, Mr. Mungai.
Yes,
Good. Since we agree up to that particular point, what did the boss of all these people say last year? I am going to solve it. In fact, invited Kenyans and told them, you're going to see a change in it.
Correct.
In fact, we are going to start expediting the process of processing all this just to 2 weeks. He promised Kenyans that. And there was such a relief. So when it's not happening, why would I go to the DCI? Why can't I directly then just tell the man who promised me, why is it not happening? Why is Kithure Kindiki not coming back again and saying, I thought I would do it. I cannot
Simba, I share the frustration of Kenyans.
Yes.
Because I wanted to travel actually a week ago. I did not travel because I could not get a passport. So it's not like...
Who did you ask a question? Hold on. Kalisa, we gotta get this story. When you go to the immigration department and you're seated at home saying, guys, just hold on, I'm waiting for my passport. Since it didn't come, what did you do?
No, you know, the process is so bad. Leave alone even, you see, waiting for a... How can I put it? It's so bad that waiting for a passport is the easier bit. You know, you must understand the process. Let me tell you, that process is so good on e-citizen to the point where government takes your money. Up to that level. Up until that
That's actually the smoothest.
That is the smoothest.
I say that, yes.
You know, just uploading your photo,
easy.
Uploading your previous passport pages. I mean, you could actually call the president and say, man, I've never seen a system that is...
Up to the point where you get the pop-up notification to pay.
Now, once you pay, the drama starts. The drama starts. How does the drama start? Getting an appointment to go and take your biometrics.
Yeah.
So, of course, they ask you where. You say, you know, there is Nairobi, there is Kisii, there is Embu, and all those places. You go there. I think immigration is trying to copy the American system, where they give you an appointment. If you apply now, they give you an appointment for 2028. That is when you'll go for the interview. Not when you'll get the visa. No. When you'll get an interview. So that's where the drama starts. On the day of going to take the biometrics. So you, of course, you're given a date, which is not less than 3 months, depending on where you go. And people are opting now even to apply. Even if you're in Nairobi, you apply to go to Kisii.
By the way.
If the date is available. Because Nairobi, dates could go all the way up to December. Okay? Now, assuming you're very lucky and you get that date, you go to immigration. You remember the cartels that Professor Kindiki was trying to chase away? There is a queue and there is a shade there. Chances are high if you are a prayerful person and if the Holy Spirit is your confidant and is your guide, if you spend a day there, you are lucky. Like the Spirit has really overworked. If you spend a day there and they happen to get your biometrics. Woe unto you if you are a poor fellow and you have no grease to make the cogs move. Your appointment may not even get you to that day. Now once, luckily, miraculously, because now this is a miraculous affair, it's no longer deserving. You know, you imagine you deserve government service because you pay tax. But this is the other way. This is miraculous in nature. So once you get the biometrics, that's why I'm saying now you are lucky to wait. Because now you are hoping, that is if you have no capacity to grease anyone. You wait, then you wait again. Finally, you reach a point where you stop waiting and you say, you know what? If I am in Nairobi and my home place is in Busia, going to Busia does not need a passport. You go back to Busia and decide, afadhali nipande e-coach or wherever, I go back to Busia because I don't need a passport. But the truth and reality is, that whole process demeans you. It treats you like a fourth degree citizen of Kenya. It's a very demeaning process to any Kenyan. Even IDs now is a bit of a challenge. If you lose your, please take care of your ID. Before we implement the 2,000 Kenya shillings to replace, please take care of your ID, because even getting it might actually be a challenge. But the reality is the immigration department has failed Kenyans, regardless of the excuses on whether it's the exchequer, on whether it's the consolidation of funds to a single pay bill, it doesn't matter. The Interior Ministry, with specific regard to immigration, has failed Kenyans.
That's what we're going to come back to. I told you, Mr. Mungai will give you a proper answer. It's an answer, but you sort of feel you're not satisfied with it. And I do apologize for the audience that has to go through Mr. Mungai's presentation every morning.
I tell them the truth.
Here's the thing. I want to read for you some submissions that I got on a personal level when I floated this particular conversation, and I said that you guys were going to come in today. Good. I'm going to start with one for Denver. Thank you very much. They said yesterday. So he said this, and I'm going to read. He said, I do not understand the obsession with this government putting every service, even local services, on its citizen. Just in point. The NTSA migration that happened some 2 weeks ago to a citizen caused billions of losses, not only to the government, but to Kenyans. Continues that even after it migrated to e-citizen portal, it is laggy. It is one of the worst experiences that any Kenyan will face when they're trying to buy, register, or transfer their vehicle currently in the country. Goes on to say, not working. Callistus, let me begin from there. You see, the NTSA portal, I mean, it was something that was working for majority of Kenyans. That particular website was one of the best websites in the country. Easy, fluid. Then the government says, you know, we have this agenda of migrating all Kenyan services to e-citizen. Then they wait for the year to begin, and then they say, well, we're going to migrate them. There was no prior announcement that came in that said, from this date to this date, this is when we are going to migrate it. There was no other announcement that came in that now that it's on e-citizen platform, we're going to try it first before we roll it out to majority of Kenyans. Kenyans just woke up and they realized, oh, so our NTSA website on its entirety, it's not working. So you've got to log into your e-citizen. That's when you go to your NTSA portal. Is it necessary to have NTSA on e-citizen, owing to the fact that they used more money to migrate over the other side? There's a lot of investment. And number two, even the government itself, on those particular days when that particular website was not functional, it was massive losses for them. Take 3 minutes, I'll come back and open up with you as well.
No. The question we have to ask ourselves is that is it helping us to synchronize government services so that we can give someone an autonomy to control funds and resources and services in the country? Is it necessary? So the question we have to ask ourselves again is that who is advising, who is in charge of government policies? Is it Moses Kuria? Is it William Ruto himself? Is it Kindiki? Or people just, or the president just make a declaration, then we start implementing things? This is what is happening, because what is being implemented in Kenya is not tested elsewhere. You cannot tell me that United States or Russia or Israel, the countries that are ahead of us, they are doing what we are doing. They have never even tried. So we have to know the kind of policies that is being implemented by the government. Is it tested? Is it proven somewhere? Someone has tried and it seems working. And if we are failing to print a passport, then it means this country is going to be disadvantaged because we are competing with our neighbors. Remember, Tanzania economy is growing. Uganda the same, Rwanda the same. But us here in Kenya, the president is going out there to ask other presidents to employ his citizens. And yet, in the country, he has made sure that things are not working. You can't even get a passport. Even getting a birth certificate is a problem. So we have to know where the rain started beating us. Because when we were campaigning, during the campaign period, the president was very clear. And one of the things he promised that he will digitalize government services and he will end corruption. But now it seems corruption is like an agenda of the government, where they have realized there's no money, so they have decided to take money from Kenyans. Just see somebody from a poor family is maybe looking for an employment in Saudi Arabia, for instance. You have taken his 4,000 shillings or 6,000. Then you, after taking the money, you tell him or her that you will call for a fingerprint maybe after 2 months or 3 months, and it's needed there maybe next week. So these are things that are making Kenyans lose hope even in life. Yes. So it's not a joke. Yes. And we have to tell the president that I will not question even Kindiki. Yes. Because if Kindiki promises that he will solve these things, maybe he has gone there, he has tried to do what needed to be done, and he has realized that the person who is the cause of this problem is the person at the top. So these things we must hold the president accountable. Yes, sir. When things used to happen, we used to hold Uhuru Kenyatta accountable. And William Ruto has made Uhuru Kenyatta a great president after Kenyans trying to test his style of leadership. Now Kenyans are saying President Uhuru was a great president, but he wasn't. It is because of the dysfunctional leadership of William Ruto. So we are saying the issue of passports is a creation of government to take money from Kenyans, to forcefully take money from Kenyans. Yes. Number two, yes.
I want you to hold your second point at that particular point, because I want us to go for a tiny breather, come back then, and also talk about systems, by the way, that they also want to change. Something I don't bring to your attention that as it currently stands, the Kenya Kwanza government wants to change the composition of JSC as envisioned in the Kenyan constitution because they've said we don't like the way the judiciary is functioning now. Another system that they want to change in the way that the government operates. Tolls is a thing that the president promised they're not going to bring to majority of Kenyans. In fact, he's on record asking the question, why do you have to pay to use a road? There are plans, apparently, from the Ministry of Transport to introduce tolls on major highways in the country, something that is creating a lot of uproar. But even on the systems that they've introduced, on their promises, case in point, the housing levy and SHIV, that system was never clear in the manifesto. They've changed it into something completely different. Once we come back, we'll be weighing on those right here on the Morning Drift. Keep talking to us. Are you getting the proper services that you deserve from the Kenya Kwanza administration? What are the pinpoints, especially on the areas that the government has promised to give you services on? Once we come back, we'll look at where we are in terms of the systems that they promised to introduce to fight corruption. Where are we? Why are we failing? And what are they planning for you when it all comes to taxation and other government systems they're introducing right here on the Morning Drift?
And the winner of the 32nd edition, representing also the EMC, Weldon Langat.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the Lotto Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Tere, mambo ni mawili, kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
Muka we mse. Nini mbaya? Wewe kwani wani vile dereva anaendesha gari vibaya, lazima tususe. Anaendesha gari na kwa simu the whole time, hata angalia barabara. Mamiseni dereva tusimame. Wewe dereva wewe, mwaka iliyopita peke yake watu zaidi ya 3,000 walipoteza maisha yao barabarani kwa sababu ya tabia kama hizo. Hautatuangamiza tukiona.
Naomba msamaha, nitampeleka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa tuende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
We're going to come back with Callistus Wafula as he clears his points on exactly what the president needs to do. Mr. Mungai said, no, take the president out of this. It's just purely on service delivery. If you're going to complain, then complain to the men and women who've been put directly in those departments. But then, the president did complain so much about the systems in the country that were enabling corruption. We do have that particular story that was filed by Ian Keitani that is essentially putting Kenya as one of the most corrupt nations in the world as it is currently. In fact, our peers, Uganda and Tanzania and Rwanda, they are beating us in that scale. So if there's anything that was supposed to be put together at the beginning of the Kenya Kwanza administration to fight corruption, then clear indications are that it's not working. Let's take a look at this story. Once we come back, talk about it right here on the Morning Drift.
Released by Transparency International has seen Kenya ranked among the most corrupt countries for the second year running. According to the report, Kenya has been ranked number 126 out of 180 countries, with 100 points being the cleanest country and 0 being the most corrupt. Kenya scored 31 points, it being a clear indication of how corrupt is deep-rooted in the country. Compared to its report in 2022, Kenya has dropped 3 places from its initial ranking, from position 123 to 126. The country scored 31 points out of a possible 100, a decline from a score of 32 points in 2022. Denmark topped the list with 90 points, with Somalia being ranked at the bottom of the list with only 11 points. The report said the high number of cases either dragged excessively, withdrawn by the prosecution, or resulted in acquittals, with no publicly known efforts to review the withdrawn cases or appeal the cases lost, have also cost the country in global ranking. A case in point, according to the report, is the acquittal of former CS Henry Ruto'S, who was accused of embezzling 63 billion shillings in the construction of the Aurora and Kimorel Dam, which they say is among the several mismanaged cases that are seemingly part of a broader pattern over controversies that have plagued the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in the recent past. Such controversial collapse of cases has eroded public confidence in ODPP's ability to uphold the rule of law and tame corruption, according to the report. The report also noted the importance of enhancing the independence of the judiciary. Transparency International's Executive Director, Sheila Masinde, noted that preserving the independence of the judiciary is paramount, and any investigation into allegations of corruption should be conducted transparently. This follows the recent spurt of sustained attacks on the judiciary by President William Ruto, which was followed by a meeting between the head of state and Chief Justice Martha Koome. In the report, neighboring nations Tanzania and Rwanda have been rated highly with minimal cases of corruption, with Uganda and Burundi ranked number 141 and 162 respectively, with the two countries facing deep-rooted corruption, according to the report. Over two-thirds of countries scored below 50 out of 100 points, which strongly indicates that they have serious corruption problems. The global average is stuck at only 43, while the vast majority of countries have made no progress or declined in the last decade. What is more, 23 countries fell to their lowest scores to date this year. Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
That's where we are in terms of corruption standing. In fact, we've dropped again 3 points this year. But then, Sheila, if you can take us back to the Daily Nation this morning, if I give this chance then to list us this morning. And on pages 5, you're going to see that particular heading, Koome warning as UDA senators JSC plot in motion. And they're talking about how the Chief Justice, Martha Koome, vows the independence of the court is not negotiable, even as Senator lobbies a change to composition of the Judicial Service Commission to tame, it's quite clear, to tame the judiciary. Another system change looming within the Kenya Kwanza government to make it effective or to tame the judiciary at a point where we are talking about how this country is dropping in terms of fighting corruption. I want you to clear your point in as much as why you think service delivery and systems implementation will be essentially blamed on the president, and then you come and talk about this. Have they been able at all for the 1 year they've been in office to start the fight against corruption?
You know, the reason why we are blaming the president, he is the head of policy, because we don't have a CS for policy making in Kenya. Maybe the head of public service, the Moses Kuria, yes. We cannot say mistakenly say that he is the head of policy. He's the president is the head of policies, and whatever is happening in the country, I believe he has hands in it. And we are saying not only we are discussing about corruption, we are also, there is a high level decline in terms of productivity. That in the country, since he took over from President Ruto, President Uhuru Kenyatta, we have been declining the production in the country in terms of manufacturing. We have been declining. And they are doing efforts to kill production completely. That's why you have seen him going out there to beg for jobs. He wants other presidents who are just like running country like him to employ his people. Look at that. Does it really make sense? So we have a president in office who is there discussing every day. They are discussing how to make money, how to improve services, but they are killing services, they are killing production, they are killing employment, and nobody is questioning them. And when you look at our parliament, which I have said we need to blame them, the moment we introduced, the time we introduced CTF, and when you look at our constitution, there is no structured way where you can share resources through members of parliament.
Yes.
It is only a way we can share resources between national government and counties. So the CTF, which is an constitution, has also motivated MPs not to put executive on check, because they are also participating in the process of corruption. You have talked about the issue of levies and the issue of toll stations, which the president is introducing. Toll station was there during the era of Khan, when President Moi introduced, and we reached a point where they said payment is cumbersome.
Yes.
So they changed from toll station to fuel levy. The levies that William Ruto toppled just a few months ago.
Yes.
So those, if he is reintroducing toll station, it means that is double taxation. You have already taxed us on fuel levies. You are introducing the same thing, where now guys will be standing on the road to collect money, and it's not necessary that that money will reach the treasury, because these are schemes of the heads of government to collect money and enable their leader
yes.
to get more resources during the campaign, they will campaign. So the question I have also to ask Kenyans, if you really like yourself, whether you supported the UDA or you supported azimio, this is a time you need to consider yourself. You are not supposed to be clapping for people, somebody who is making your life miserable. I don't see the, how Kalenjins, for an instance,
yes.
who are fully behind William Ruto, I don't see how they are benefiting from this administration. Because if somebody is killing an economy, you have your children. William Ruto has children, Kachako has children, Raila has children. If you are killing economy, you are destroying the life of my children, whether I'm your brother, I'm from your, we come from one community, or I'm your neighbor. There's nothing that can make me to overlook my children and support your agenda of destroying economy.
Yes,
because we are saying they're destroying economy because of over-taxation. I have not heard any government head or the president discussing on how to increase production, how to increase what we call consumption of goods and services in the country. So are we running an economy on behalf of other countries where we want to export employees to go and work for them so that they increase production, so that our shillings continue being weak? We have no plans, and we are discussing about passport. These are the simplest things. Even in Tanzania or Uganda, they cannot discuss that kind of things. Services are happening. So we have to ask the question, the buck stop at the president, because Kindiki cannot oversleep on the job if the president wants him to work. Not even the head of immigration departments can try. So we are saying, as we discuss about stalled government services, some people are making good deals. The government is, my friend has just told us that they are collecting more. They are collecting more, services is declining, production is declining. So who is receiving the proceeds of what they are collecting?
Yes.
So we have to know. We have to put our parliament on check.
Yes,
and we need to push for us complete scrubbing off that CDF.
Yes,
that will make our members of parliament to call there to know they are there to serve the interest of people, to represent us, to legislate on our behalf, to call out oversight, to call out those who might be participating in corruption or misusing government resources.
Yes, pretty much. But I want to get ready, because the next part of our discussion, by the way, is going to touch on the systems that even this government is putting in place to implement their agenda, all the way from education, all the way to development, all the way to health, all the way to affordable housing agenda. Those are the issues I want you to talk about this morning. Mr. Mungai, just to mention for you this morning, again, it's like we really want to change the way that the government and various aspects of the government operate, just really work on the systems, but then somebody's going to ask to what end? Let me put your attention on that particular story that we've run for you on the Daily Nation. And for the sake of the audience, please, who have to benefit from the conversations this morning, I want to read for you what the JSC composition is. And just quickly, it is the Chief Justice, who's the chair of the JSC, one Supreme Court judge, 1 Court of Appeal judge, the High Court judge, 1 magistrate, Attorney General, 2 advocates, 1 a woman and 1 a man, 1 person nominated by the Public Service Commission, all right? Lawyers appointed by the President with the approval of the National Assembly. So if you're going to talk about representation then from the President, you have almost 4 in this particular JSC composition. At a time when we're fighting corruption, the Kenya Kwanza government feels we can tame the judiciary. And the only way we can do that, number one, they've already suggested that they want to cut down on the benefits that the government essentially extend to them. That's from the executive to the judiciary. Also, number 2, change this particular composition. Again, they promise they're going to put in place systems to fight corruption in this country. And if you're going to fight corruption, then one of the areas that really have to be enabled strongly is the judiciary, because it's a bigger component in fighting corruption in any other state, which is what I'm asking this morning. I mean, on the back of that report by Transparency International, back to we got to tame them. Is it necessary at all, Mr. Mungai?
Actually, the key word is not to tame the judiciary. Let me put this into context. One, I think the judiciary needs to grow some balls. And I say this without fear of reprisal. And I say this with a clear conscience. Let me give it context. 24 years under Moi, we Kenyans sought to change the constitution. Why? Because we wanted to guard ourselves against an imperial presidency. And we were guarding against dictatorship by the executive. But in our, you know, sometimes when you're coming out from a bad place,
yes,
you really overextend yourself, you overextend your hand, and you create another problem.
Yes.
And the problem that we created as a country is that then we ended up taking almost all powers to the judiciary, yes, unquestioned. And what do I mean? One, I have had almost all media panels every morning, every evening, are dominated by lawyers. And one of the things that I have had over time is something they call sub judice. It's a term that is commonly repeated, which is okay. It's a legal principle. Okay, you cannot discuss matters that are live before court. You cannot discuss the merits or demerits thereof. But what this has done is that we have elevated the judiciary to a pedestal where they cannot be critiqued. I'll tell you, Simba, for a fact. Today, the president can go to Meru and people can heckle him, and there is nothing he will do to them.
As it is, yes,
within
their right.
Under Article 34,
yes,
is it Article 34(2) of the Constitution of Kenya?
Yes.
The state cannot penalize an individual for saying anything or publishing anything to the detriment of the state. That is why I can criticize the executive today,
yes,
and I can go to a government hospital tomorrow and they will treat me because of the constitutional rights guaranteed to me under the Constitution.
And it's within your right.
Today, Simba,
yes,
you can criticize any member of parliament, whether Senate or whether legislature. But I tell you for a fact, Simba, you single out a judge today or single out an appellate judge or a Supreme Court judge and try and criticize them. That is when you will know that the learned friends have gone to school. They actually learned. And why I think it's important,
yes,
why I think it's important to have this discussion, you have told the viewer the composition of the JSC, which Karongo Adhangwa seeks to alter. Okay? Can I tell you for a fact that for the president to appoint a tribunal to investigate a judge under the motion of the JSC, the Supreme Court has the last resort in terms of rescinding any decision that would actually have been made by that tribunal or the president. So the buck stops with the court itself. You understand? That means what we have done as a country, and we must speak this openly. Simba, tell me, I know a real example of a lady who has lived in a piece of land for all her years, brought up children there with a title deed. Someone came because the road was, the plot was near the road, and the government was supposed to acquire the road for something, to acquire the place for something. People came with papers. They said that land is theirs. They went and bribed the magistrate, and the judiciary ruled that that land belonged to the person who had come with the papers at that particular point. Now, why is this important? No, let me explain. Don't worry, I'll get where you want to go. Because you know, sometimes we have...
Gotta tell you,
wait.
But even you, Mungai, just to protect your credibility this morning, that every time you talk about bribing, someone's going to ask, well, was this evidence table that the JSC and they did not...
No. You see, when you want to oppress people, you take them to systems which you control. And this is exactly my point. There's a justice called Justice Black, and I'll read to you his quote. This is what he says.
Yes.
The assumption that respect for the judiciary can be won by shielding judges from published criticism wrongly appraises the character of public opinion. For it is a prized privilege to speak one's mind, although not always with perfect good taste, on all public institutions. An enforced silence, however limited, solely in the name of preserving the dignity of the bench, would probably engender resentment, suspicion, and contempt much more than it would enhance respect. Now, why is this important? This is important because for the first time, we are having a discussion on judiciary. And the reality is, judiciary is a subset of the total population. So therefore, when we speak about corruption being endemic in executive, when we speak about corruption being endemic in legislature, why then do we hallow the judiciary? My friend, if they are so hallowed, if they mesmerize a lot, then why don't we turn the Supreme Court to become a temple? So that whenever you walk in there, and you decree something spiritually, then we take it as a matter of last resort.
Mr. Mugabe, but you're quite aware.
Finally,
that you're quite aware.
Let me tell you why they need to grow even bigger balls.
That's it. Just before you get
they
that.
were criticized.
Yeah, just before you
they
get
were
that, Mr.
criticized
Mungai. Yes.
by Ahmed Nasir. Okay?
Yes.
They were criticized.
Yes.
When they were criticized, what did they do? In a recent case, apart from issuing the letter that they issued, they recused themselves from the guy presenting themselves before them.
And rightly so, Mr. Mungai, that within the precincts of law, even you yourself, can I ask you, Mr. Mungai just indulge us this morning with Callista's
please, I'll indulge you, especially on these judicial matters.
That's it, because now we're facing...
Because we must call them out for what they are.
It's okay, Mr. Mungai, because we're facing news and headlines about how the Kenya Kwanza government wants to change systems in the country based on what their feelings are about particular rulings that have gone against them. Now, number one, are we not aware, really, that indeed no law in this country stops any other person from criticizing any other judge in this country, that it gives you leeway to wait for the cases to end, get them out of court under media law, so you can talk about whatever it is that you want about these cases. And it's not the very first time we're seeing judges getting criticized on their ruling. Mr. Mungai, are we not aware of that?
You see, I really don't get where you're going with that point.
Because you said, it's just because you presented the idea that in this country we do not criticize judges.
Let me explain something here. Yes. You are aware that we had a radical surgery on judiciary.
That's it, during Mwai Kibaki's time.
During Mwai Kibaki's time. Prior to that, we still had a judicial system.
That's it.
That made rulings based on the rule of law, correct?
That's it.
Rule of law, okay?
Yeah.
So if the president picked up his phone and called a certain judge, they were likely to incarcerate you regardless of what the law said. So they would look at angles of the law that would actually support what the president wanted you to do based on the law. Based on the law, okay? Now, why is that important? That is important because we need to have a discussion. Let me ask you, Simba, can we accept executive dictatorship in this country?
Of course not. Our constitution doesn't foresee it.
Exactly.
Does it?
In fact, it is unthinkable.
It's unthinkable.
It is unthinkable in the 21st century that you would have executive dictatorship, right?
That's it.
And that is why today If the president or the executive does something, we can actually go to court.
That's it.
And stop it.
That's it. And the Constitution gives a process to do that, isn't it?
Good. Patience.
Yes.
Be a little bit patient with me.
Yes, Mungai.
Today, in terms of legislature, the legislature can make laws, but the buck does not necessarily stop with them.
Does it?
A court of law can declare certain provisions of law as unconstitutional.
Does it?
When the parliament makes laws, they send them to the president to assent, which is the executive, correct? But the president, if he disagrees, he can return the law back to
the National House.
The National House.
Does it?
There is checks and balances when it comes to the executive and the legislature.
Does it?
The question I am asking this morning, because remember, the Constitution is a living document, and that is why sometimes I support its change. The question is, where does the buck stop when it comes to the judiciary?
But the law is quite...
Because that's an important question.
That's it. But the law is quite clear on it.
If the judicial officers decide to become a dictatorship, where does the buck stops? Because remember, constitutionally under Article 1, all power is vested on the people.
It's a friend to the people, yes.
Yes, to the people. All power, the people are supreme. Okay? Then we donate powers to certain institutions. Today I can recall a member of parliament. Correct? So the question is, when it comes to the judiciary, and I'll tell you something else for a fact. When Mike Sonko did not get justice, he went to the East Africa Court of Justice. Correct? When Martha Karua did not get justice, she went to the East African Court of Justice. Now, the East African Court of Justice has granted an award to Martha Karua that the Kenyan state needs to pay her for subversion of justice. Now, that ruling is supposed to come back to Kenya to be effected by the executive. But there is a challenge. The challenge is that the Constitution of Kenya envisages only a situation where the Supreme Court of Kenya is the final. And therefore, the Chief Justice, the Attorney General has gone to the Supreme Court to seek interpretation of what the East African Court of Justice jurisdiction is in matters that have to do with Kenya. Are they over and above the Supreme Court of Kenya? Now, should the Supreme Court rule that the final in accordance to the Constitution is the Supreme Court, then the question I am asking this morning to the viewers, it's a question I am asking. Then who is the ombudsman for judiciary? How do we guard ourselves against judicial tyranny?
Pretty much.
This is a discussion we need to have as a country.
And that's exactly the discussion that we're having this morning, by the way. And I want us to move away from this particular issue because there are other issues that are going to weigh in this morning. That even as we question, like, where do we go next? That even within that process, that you can appeal as many times as you want on a particular ruling in this country that's provided within law. And the courts are mandated to listen to you. And even as we're talking about this particular case, the Constitution is quite clear that should you have any evidence of misgiving in your ruling, of bribery, of corruption, you go back to JSC, and the JSC are mandated to listen to that particular case. And we've seen several cases, by the way, where the JSC is forced to listen to these ones. Is that not okay to the point that we're saying, we got to change the composition of JSC? To what extent, Mr. Mungai?
I'll tell you.
Come with that, gentlemen.
You know, these are topic. I'll allow Wafula. But let me wind up by saying this.
I'll come to you, Mr. Mungai. I'll come to you, Mr. Wafula. Just for the sake of our conversation again this morning, as you also respond to that, I gotta go back to the systems again that, of course, are pro within the Kenyan citizens on exactly how this government is essentially wants to give service. Just in point, when we go back and interpret the promise that was in the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza government, especially on the housing agenda, it was not envisioned as a tax. Never. It was a contribution.
Yes.
When we go particularly to SHIF, it was just a contribution that was capped at just 3,000 shillings. Now, it is not essentially capped at 3,000 shillings as the final amount is not paid. If you look at the composition in terms of percentages, you're paying 2.75%. Majority of Kenyans might even pay upwards of 75,000 depending on what you're earning. I don't want to ask you about the tolls. I'll let Mungai weigh in on that particular issue for tolls upon the introduction of the petroleum levy as well. Are they struggling to come up with systems to implement their agenda? Case in point, housing levy completely changed. Completely changed as well. Is that what they're struggling with? Because if you go back to their manifesto, it's true to say, wait a minute, this is not the system that you promised to introduce when you're implementing this particular agenda.
Before we discuss that issue of housing, the issue of executive becoming a prefect of judiciary, that is something that we need to fight.
Yes.
Because somebody cannot say, where is the park stops? The parks at the judiciary stops with the Constitution of Kenya. Because the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeal can only make ruling on basis of the law. And we are saying any act of parliament which is inconsistent with the Constitution of Kenya, if taken to a court of law, will be declared null and void. And I want to tell my friend that we cannot say, and when we look at the performance of judiciary for the last 10 years, we have improved actually. In fact, the only government the arm that is working is judiciary, because the parliament has failed, executive has failed, and they are running the country on the basis of corruption. And number two, you cannot sit here and say you want to change the judiciary, composition of judiciary, so that you are in control as the head of state. That situation cannot envisage the best practices under democracy, under the advanced democracy in the world. There are so many countries that have tried to improve the independence of judiciary, and that is what we are supposed to do. I saw the president meeting the Chief Justice just some few weeks ago, and I don't know what they were discussing, because he's looking for cooperation. We cannot have a parliament, an executive which is cooperating with the parliament and is cooperating with the judiciary.
She said it was not about cooperation,
because
it was about working together.
How? There's no, we don't have a structure where executive need to cooperate.
There's a principle of interdependence.
But in the independence of judiciary and independence of parliament was created to put the executive on check, because we have got 3 arms of the government. But the executive is the most powerful arm of government, because it controls the resources. So when the president said, I'm going to cooperate to serve Kenyans, that is a manipulation. He was championing, he wanted to run away from accountability. If they cooperate with judiciary, Kenyans will not be able to get services. Number 2, when we come to issues of housing.
Quickly on that.
Housing, in fact, we need to question. That's why I said we have got a very stupid parliament, because they want to implement housing projects.
I like how houses, you call it stupid parliament.
Houses,
use the same for judiciary.
Houses are being constructed on government land. Who is the owner of that title? Is it the people? Is it the government? And where did the government base when they say now that they have taken government land and they want to construct houses? Because there are so many things that the government needs to do. Government land need to be reserved for economic growth. They need to construct industry, parastatals, things that can generate income. But if you say you want to look for land across Nairobi, in Kiambu, in Nyeri, government land, then you construct the houses there. Who has bought that land? Is it the money that we are contributing, they are going to purchase that land from the government, they construct houses on our behalf? Or the president has decided, because he is the head of executive, to take government resources and misuse it by constructing houses. The issue of housing, Kenyans need to resist against the KK administration, because it's just a scam, and it is an avenue where they want to make a lot of money. They want to take these governments land, they constructed houses there, those houses will be sold to Kenyans. So you contribute for them to construct a house. After constructing those houses, then they sell to you. So we are saying we are not living in the forest. The private sector took over a long time.
Yes.
We constructed a lot of houses in the country.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have housing is not a problem in Kenya.
And
what is the problem in Kenya is unemployment. The employment rate is rising each and every time.
Specifically on that shift
Yes.
of the system of implementation that they put in, they introduced a tax as opposed to a contribution that was essentially in their manifesto. Is that where the problem is on this particular
everything is wrong.
levy?
Everything
Yes.
is wrong.
Yes.
They are taking government land to construct private houses. Then after constructing houses, they sell to Kenyans who have contributed already for them to construct houses.
I want you to also comment on Chief.
But
yes,
about the system,
yes.
KK administration is ever discussing about changing this and this and this. Why is it that the president is busy looking for an avenue to change something? He's even trying to change the judiciary, the performance of judiciary, to favor his administration. We are saying, if I also have heard that he is planning to meet with Raila Odinga. Is again the same strategy. He wants to meet him so that you see if he can cut a deal with him, so that they can also do something differently, so that Raila can stop defending Kenyans about cost of living and unemployment rate that is rising each and every time. So we are saying all that the administration, the KK administration is doing is scams, and the housing is an elephant in the room. Is the matter of all the scams that we have in the country.
Mr. Mungai, want you to indulge us again this morning and our audience that is watching, because some of the systems that the Kenya Kwanza, the government is introducing, have caused uproar in the country. At this moment, you have 8 minutes to try and make us understand why the government is planning to introduce tolls on major highways in the country. It's something that has been floated over some time, but in the other previous government is not worked. It's again getting floated in this particular one. And on that particular area for housing levy, again, there are people saying, well, but this is not the system that you promised that you're going to use to introduce this particular one. Chief as well, the system is completely changed now or morphed into something completely different as well. We're talking about systems here. Systems, the majority of Kenyans are even saying, no, we do not want this. It's not exactly how it should be. Majority of Kenyans have said no to the housing levy. And I say majority because I'm backed up by a research or a poll that was done late last year on how majority of Kenyans are saying no to housing levy. Chief is morphed as well. If you look at the manifesto, it was a contribution capped at 3,000 shillings. It looks clear, and that's what you feel majority of Kenyans supported. Now it is changed to percentage capped at 2.75%, which is saying majority of Kenyans, by the way, contribute upwards of even 15,000, depending on what it is that you're earning. System change. That's what we're talking about this morning. You've changed it, and we're saying no. And majority of Kenyans are also saying no.
You know, Simba, one is to say that change is painful. It's everyone wants to change, but the process of change is a very difficult and tedious process, especially when you're involved in a new system. Change is a painful process for anyone to go through.
Yes.
Even some of us who desire to change in our own private lives and do new year resolutions, by the time you get to June, you realize you haven't even achieved either, including even either one of them you've not really achieved. Why? Because we as humans are humans of habit. We are used to do things in a certain way, and therefore if sudden change comes, we are likely to be opposed. Now, when I heard you ask me the question about change, and change of goalposts specifically,
yes,
I wondered whether, Simba, you could be part of the NHIF cartels.
I told you this morning it was going to be very difficult. All right, here we go.
because it is only cartels who have benefited from previous regime or previous processes that are opposed to change. But what is the reality? One, the reality is that NHIF has been bleeding and NHIF has been losing money to cartels, collusion. We've had even media documentaries showcasing how hospitals have been colluding to steal from Kenyans. Because when NHIF money is stolen, it's not stolen from NHIF. It's stolen from my pocket and your pocket because it's deducted from your pay slip.
Yes.
So in terms of that, I really want to believe, but I know you're a good man, that you really are not a beneficiary of the cartels that want preservation of the status quo.
Yes. And on the change of the system of implementation, I mean, you told Kenyans there is going to be capped at 3,000 shillings in the manifesto.
But you see, based on public participation, there is what you tell Kenyans.
Yeah.
But based on public participation, Kenyans are likely to come up with other ideas. For instance,
do you think any Kenyan will say, I want to pay more to this particular fund from the government?
No. Kenyans want better service. That's the reality.
But not pay more?
No. You see, taxation is based on a principle, quid pro quo, something for something. The challenge with the Kenyan system as it is that it is something for nothing most of the times.
Yes.
So Kenyans pay money, and then you see a government official wearing a 20 million shoe or driving a 40 million car or something like that. That is usually the challenge. The challenge is not that Kenyans are unwilling to pay for better services. And you realize Kenyans will pay handsomely for good service. That is why you have high-end hospitals that even have backlog of patients. Why? Because Kenyans are looking at service levels, that are satisfactory, and of course that are good standard. Now, there are of course changes that will bring a lot of acrimony, which even me from where I sit, some of these CSs when they speak, and part of the challenge we have with this government also is that we have conceited ministers or cabinet secretaries who will not listen to anyone. And I'll give you an example. There are people you cannot really advise. Is it possible, for instance, to go and advise Mulkomen? Will Mulkomen listen to your advice? He's not likely to listen to your advice. There are just cabinet secretaries who've reached a level where, it's God, Jesus, the president, then them. So in terms of even advising them, it becomes a bit difficult. Well, unfortunately, so long as a person is delivering, sometimes we overlook their character flaws.
Yes.
And that is okay with them. We are not the appointing authority, the president is. In terms of tolling, for instance, for roads, we have a blueprint in terms of the expressway, and it is working very well. I have seen slowly they are also dealing with the road that is underneath, that was destroyed when they were constructing. But the reality is, let us have ideas up for discussion, and let us interrogate them further. For instance, like the housing fund, I believe we can have a conversation as a country on how we can be able to move forward with regard to the fund. You remember the court returned that process to Parliament in terms of one, legislation. There needs to be proper legislation, a proper legal framework of how those funds are expended.
Yes.
And I believe that those are good. Also, growing a democracy requires setbacks, because setbacks are the ones that send us to the drawing desk.
Or does it also point that the systems you're building around this are not essentially articulate?
No, in essence, change is difficult. Change is painful. That is why when we ask the judiciary to change, they send lawyers to panels to bash us. But the reality is, change is painful. I can tell you there is endemic corruption in the judiciary. When Wafula was speaking, and please bring Wafula here more often. When Wafula was speaking, he says it in a very casual manner that we have a stupid parliament. But Simba, you would get kicked out of most of media stations for saying we have a stupid judiciary. In fact, it is unfathomable for Mungai to sit here and say we have a stupid judiciary. People would look at me as if I have lost my mind.
True.
But people sit in panels, they call president unprintable names, And Kenyans are like, yes, this is the constitution that we wanted. Wafula sits here.
Can I tell
Wafula sits here. He says, you know, we have a stupid parliament. And it goes without notice. It goes without passing.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing that you have the business deal with you right now. I mean, you can say it.
It's written public officers loot 605 million. Part of this is judiciary. Yes.
Does it? 605 million shillings. And then when you read further the details of that report, then they go in and talk about how specific departments cannot account for how they've spent it. That indeed, if you're gonna be asked, give me the evidence today, Mr. Mungai, you will say, oh, a report by the controller of budget indicated that your department, where you're the head, cannot account for this and this amount. So is it not okay for you to say that any other citizen today has got evidence against a particular office based on the report that you have for you there? But every time we ask you, Mungai, could you give me one report about one judge that has been right? You say, yeah, they're corrupt.
They don't have.
No, it's because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. And that's why I say, let's keep the discourse alive. Let's keep the discussions open. You know why? Because it is in the discourse that we get to grow ideas. And this is what I am saying. We should reach a point in this country. We should reach a point in this country. Trump, let's take a US, the one that we want to grow as a democracy. Okay? One of the judges gagged him against him saying something about the case and the merits, and also against the judge. He appealed, and the appeal judge lifted the order temporarily against the gag. When that was lifted, Trump pronounced unprintable words to the other judge who had issued the gag orders. But the other judge took it in their own stride, because that is the democracy that we want to grow. Here,
but you see how it's done.
No, wait. When the president says...
You see how it's done?
Yes.
And Mr. Mungai telling us, well, it was done procedurally.
No, I'm not refusing. I'm just saying we need to grow the discourse as a country to a level where... Listen to me.
Yes, Mr. Mungai.
I'm not denying. I'm saying we need to grow this country to a level where we stop seeing the judges and the Supreme Court as if they are sheikhs, as if they are
respecting the rule of law.
No. I'm not talking about disrespect of the law. I am saying that we need to see the judiciary as just any other arm of the government, such that if I feel free to criticize the legislature or the executive, then equally, the judiciary. Can you imagine just one person criticizing the judiciary and they cannot allow him to come before them? What level of madness is that?
Let me put it to you like this, and you tell me, be as honest as you can.
Yes, I prefer honesty.
Mr. Mungai, just
like honesty saying judiciary is corrupt.
Be as honest as you can. I mean, we only saw the Kenya Kwanza government start to fight the judiciary at the beginning of this year, and it was on the back of that ruling that they made. They did not lift the orders that were supposed to stop the implementation of both chief and the housing levy. That's when all of a sudden we're like, oh, these guys are corrupt, we gotta stop them. Now, be as honest as you can. And we only have 5 minutes for the show. I will want to take 2 minutes because I've got the final question to Mr. Mungai this morning. That due to this attack, currently as it is, there is a lack of confidence thereof in major rulings that are coming from this judiciary, that all of a sudden now, Kenyans are getting told, nah, these guys are corrupt. Do you also feel that we've, in one way or another, as a country, injured the confidence and the role of the judiciary in helping us fight corruption due to the government attacks that we've seen so far?
Elisha, in fact, next time when we come here on the show, I expect us to discuss the topic should be the achievement of Kenya Kwanza administration. We want to know what they have achieved, because they cannot be shifting call box. When they are faced with challenges, they start blaming others. Judiciary cannot be forced to submit to executive. Judiciary was created as a referee. Judiciary is the most powerful arm of government, where justice, the constitution of Kenya, and the rights of people are supposed to be protected. In fact, our rights are defined by the courts.
Yes.
So we cannot say we want the executive now to start being like prefects to the judiciary.
Also.
So that because they are making a decision that is unfriendly to them. What we are saying, churches or magistrates were trained to be judges. Our MPs, they were not trained to represent us. They are just there to do things on behalf of Kenyans. And our sovereignty is protected when the judiciary is strong. Number two, the guy has talked about NHIF. And I want to tell you, each and everything that the government is doing is to make money. The issue of NHIF, they did statistics and they realized that a lot of Kenyans who are paying for NHIF are these employed people. Unemployed are no longer paying. Even me, I'm not paying NHIF. I just have an arrangement how I treat myself and my family. Because I realize even paying for that thing cannot help you. When you look for services that need a lot of money, they will tell you you have to pay. So most of Kenyans are not paying for that NHIF. So what they did, they said now the employed one are the ones who are paying it. They have increased the deduction to collect more. And now they are telling the country, we have reduced those people who are not who doesn't have low income earners.
Yes.
They are now paying 300.
Yes.
But when you look at what they are collecting more.
30 seconds.
Because the intention wasn't to ease services.
Yes.
The intention was to collect money. And Kenya Kwanza administration has been always about collection, taxes.
Also.
So the tax collector must be told, we are watching him, and we will not allow them to continue manipulating us, to manipulate our mental, how can we call it? They want to manipulate our intelligence so that we keep on supporting whatever they do. They cannot punish judiciary. That one, we will not allow them.
Mr. Mungai, two questions for me this morning. As you clear, and you only have 2 minutes to answer to this. One, I mean, majority of the systems that the government is introducing currently, I mean, in the biggest move are being taken to court, or they're causing a public uproar. We've seen LSK go back to the street, and even Raila Amolo Odinga threatening to call a one-man military march with the capital to stop the president and the executive from attacking the judiciary. Kimani Ichung'wa 4 days ago has actually told the president, Kangumu, cut their budget, the judiciary, at a time when we're supposed to have more of them to fight corruption cases in the country. One, what is it about the systems that is not working that is causing public uproar? Number two, right now, be honest as you can. Any other ruling about a major case, it's 50-50. For the government, they were pushed. Not for the government, we told you these guys are like this, that we've created that discourse now.
One, nothing dispenses injustice more than the Justice Department that we have in Kenya.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, at least Wafula has, when he gets agitated, he's called me this guy. You know Wafula. Wafula has just confirmed he does not pay any HIF, and he's confirmed he's a herbalist. He treats himself with herbs. But let's say this. As a country, I said,
yes,
we need to reach to a level where it's okay to criticize, because the judge is paid by my money. I pay tax, and when I pay tax, regardless of whether the tax is high or low, part of that tax goes towards paying a judge and his security of tenure. Okay? And therefore, I have an expectation that the judiciary should become an arbiter who's not biased. And the judiciary, when they talk about public interest, they must really tell us sometimes what public interest involves. If you recall, before we went into the 2022 elections, you recall a saga where the Supreme Court was meeting to postpone elections. You recall?
Yeah.
And you know that would have caused anarchy and chaos to this country. It took the lack of a flight ticket by Njoki Ndongo not to come and sit on the bench. You recall that drama and saga?
Yeah.
It took Justice Mwilu, I think his driver was not feeling well, so she did not come to work, and so forth and so on. And what's my point? My point is that the judiciary needs to be seen, perception first and foremost. They need to be seen that when they sit on a bench, they have public interest at heart. And public interest must be felt by the guy in Korogosho. It must be felt by the guy in Kiandutu slums in Thika. Public interest must not be interest propagated and advanced by the highest bidder. And I am saying we need to open a discourse where we need not to see judges as hallowed people, as deities. We need to see judges for the fact that they are public servants, paid by public money to dispense judgments that are in public good. That is the only way we can move forward as a democracy. But we must have a discussion by Kenyans that yes, judiciary is corrupt, and there is need for us to root out corruption in the judiciary. And it does not matter, because I am not executive myself, I am an ordinary Kenyan. And therefore, you can say, yes, the executive is attacking the judiciary. But Mungai here has nothing, I'm not executive. I am not attacking judiciary, I'm critiquing it. And I must be very careful as I close, because tomorrow I might appear before a judge and they must refuse to listen to me because I criticize them on Lookuptv.
Actually, that's a question that...
And that's a big challenge.
That's a question that Nyambura is asking you this morning.
Yes, that's a big challenge, because tomorrow a magistrate might remember me from Lookuptv.
That's the question that Nyambura is asking you this morning. She's saying, I have a solution for Mr. Mungai. Tell him to take the immigration department boss to court. But then she continues, what if they tell him we will not listen to his case this week because we do not have judges?
They can't do that.
Yeah, and that's why I read for you Article 34.2.
But you haven't called out Kimani Chungwa.
No, because you have not asked me to call them out. But today I'm telling you, you know I cannot come with a list here of calling out people.
But you know but you know who they are.
But today I came out with only one institution that I need to call out. I am calling out the Chief Justice. Now, I am telling the Chief Justice.
Now that we only have 45 seconds left, are you ever going to be fine? I mean, if you want to be a neutral in this conversation and say, well, let's say what is right,
I am not neutral. I am not neutral. I always speak for the oppressed. I am not neutral.
That's it.
And today I speak against dictatorship by the judiciary.
Which is okay.
And I am saying they must change their ways.
That's it. Which is
I am not neutral.
Can we clear like this then? Can we clear like this? 15 seconds left.
So,
Mr. Mungai, are you going to call out the two members of parliament who've been very vocal about cutting down the budget of the judiciary?
No, I have not heard them.
I told you
what they have said.
Where? You will show me after the broadcast.
Kimani Chungwa said that 4 days ago?
No, you know, since you proved that allegedly you're part of the...
You know, Mungai, what Mungai is not telling you.
I cannot trust what you're asking.
What Mr. Mungai is not telling you. He's aggrieved. He's aggrieved party about this
particular issue here.
Because Kenyans are not complaining. Kenyans are not complaining.
I am Kenyan. I am complaining.
But if you look at, last time we were here with the Edward, it seems all UDA supporters are programmed to think the same. Because that's what...
Actually, no. I carry a brain which I exercise.
Take them back to the time I came right. Look up TV across all your social media platforms. This is how it is, isn't it? It's good to have him back. Sheila, take us out.